Hello and welcome to TalentSprint again for another presentation on the banking subject. This time we are going to talk of current accounts. We have already seen what are the various types of accounts which a bank opens, namely first is a savings bank account. I'm talking of deposit accounts, that is. First is the savings bank account, then we have the current accounts, then we have the term deposits or fixed deposits, then we have recurring deposits and janata deposits and so on. We'll now talk of what is a current account. A current account is meant for traders, manufacturers, trusts, corporates and businessmen. Normally, a current account is not meant for the retail customer. A current account is not meant for the retail customer. It is an account which is meant, current account is an account which is meant for traders, corporates, businessmen, trusts and companies. It is very popular amongst these types of customers because there are no limit on the number of transactions that can happen in a current account. You would have read in papers and perhaps seen on television and on social media that banks these days are imposing a lot of restrictions on transactions in savings bank accounts, because savings bank accounts are meant to garner the savings of people. They are not meant to be used as a business transaction purpose. They are not to be used for business transaction purposes. Whereas a current account is strictly for business transaction purposes, and to that extent there is no limit on the number of transactions that can happen in a current account. Sometimes in a current account you could have as many as 100 transactions per day. That is why the current account is very popular amongst the type of customers which we mentioned earlier, namely corporates, businessmen, trusts, firms, societies and so on and so forth. In a current account, deposits are allowed by cash, checks, drafts and online transfers. Just like an SB account, in current accounts also you can have deposits by way of cash or deposits mostly by way of checks, sometimes by way of demand drafts and sometimes by way of online transfer also. Nowadays a lot of emphasis is given on digital banking, so to that extent a business organization which has to receive money from another business organization could very well see the money is being received by online transfer. However, this is not the only method of transfer only method of depositing money into a current account. You could also deposit by way of cash, you could deposit by way of checks, or you could also deposit by way of demand drafts. Withdrawals are allowed by cash, checks, online transfer to payees. Online is again the most popular, as I told you. Withdrawals are also allowed by cash even in current accounts. For example, an organization may be having 25 employees in an office. In order to run the day-to-day expenses of the running of the office, namely housekeeping activities, pantry activities like coffee, tea, etc., purchase of small items of stationery, etc., cash may be needed for them, and that cash can be withdrawn from their current account. Larger payments to suppliers and to other creditors can be made by checks. And of course today the most popular, the most easy and the most convenient form of payments is the online transfer. With the increasing importance being given to digital India, most companies do online transfers now, including for payment of wages and salaries. So online is the most popular form of withdrawal of money from a current account. As I told you, it is used by employers to pay salaries to their accounts, by traders for purchase of goods, by exporters for payment of export bills. Of course, exporters payment of export bills cannot be done by cash, and neither can it be done, not that it can't be done, neither is it done by way of drafts. It is mostly done by way of online transfers. How the online transfer to a foreign exchange is done, we will see at a separate section on foreign exchange or forex, and what are the various organizations involved in forex transactions and so on. We shall see in a separate video, but for now understand that online transfers are predominantly the method of paying forex transactions. So export bills are always paid by using online transfer, and by companies for payment of utility bills. Current accounts are used by companies for payment of utility bills. For example, they could be used for payment of electricity bills, they could be used for payment of ESI dues, they could be used for payment of other statutory liabilities also. And many times companies invest in mutual funds. What are mutual funds? How they are useful to companies? We will of course see them. We'll of course see them in greater detail at a later stage. But just understand that a mutual fund is a great medium of investment for the Indian investor. A mutual fund is a collective investment object or a collective investment vehicle in which investors with the common investment objective come together and put money, and that money is managed by a fund manager who invests the money in the various types of markets and gives returns to the investor. That is the simple fundamental explanation of what is a mutual fund. So companies very often invest in mutual funds for short-term periods to medium-term periods. Very rarely, of course, do they invest in long-term mutual funds, but many of them invest in ultra short-term liquid funds and ultra short-term mutual funds, or short-term mutual funds, and sometimes medium-term mutual funds, for which also the current account is used. Moving on with current accounts, the current account holders are given ATM cards and checkbooks, just like a savings bank account holder. Passbooks are no longer relevant. Olden days, current accounts also used to have a passbook, but nowadays they are being replaced by email statement of accounts online. The customer will get a statement of account at a frequency which he desires. For example, in a current account, the customer can say that I want a statement of account every single day, and the bank will provide him with a soft copy of the statement of account every single day. So the online email statements are the most popular. Of course, banks are restricting cash deposits to a large extent. This is to avoid two things. One is the workload on the bankers to count large volumes of cash, especially when it comes from corporate accounts. And of course, second thing, in a move to digitalize Indian banking, cash transactions are discouraged. And of course, there are certain banks which also charge penalties from bringing in cash more than the permitted number of times. The important feature of current account is that no interest is payable on current account deposits. Current account deposits are the only form of deposits with banks which do not earn any interest. Savings banks accounts, term deposits, recurring deposit accounts, fixed deposits, they all earn interest from the bank. However, current accounts, which are meant for day-to-day transactions of a large volume in nature, and for businessmen, trusts and cooperatives and companies and financial institutions and NBFCs, these do not carry any interest. Because they are given the facility of limitless transactions, no interest is paid on them. So that is why you will find that a current account balance is always preferred by the bank, because it gets money without any cost attached to it. For savings bank, the current rates of interest are between 4 and 6%. For recurring deposits, it is again between 5 and 7.5%, depends on the period of deposit. For fixed deposit, it ranges from as little as 3% for 15 days to maybe 8.25 or 8.5% for a 3-year deposit, so on and so forth. Whereas for current account, the bank does not have to pay anything. It is cost-free for the bank. So the banks make all-out efforts to gather as much current accounts as possible. So this is how the current accounts operate. These are the details of the current accounts. It's a very, very popular medium of transactions for corporate accounts and for people who have large number of transactions, both inward and outward. And I'm sure you have enjoyed this video. You've understood what is a current account and how it operates. And until I see you in the next video, it's bye from me for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.